I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, and this is an update on the proceedings before Judge Eileen Cannon in connection with the search warrant executed at Mar-A-Lago on August 8th. So, a document that was filed under seal by the Department of Justice, meaning not for public consumption, was inadvertently released by Judge Eileen Cannon's court. And by released, I mean made public on the electronic court filing system. And so we were able to take a look at what this document said. Other media had access to it as well. And intrepid reporter at Bloomberg was the first to actually identify that this document was temporarily made public. And what this document lists is it's a notice that's filed by the United States Privilege Review Team of documents they obtained during the search warrant executed at Mar-A-Lago on August 8th. And they have a category of Exhibit A and Exhibit B, which were at first a universe of documents that were potentially privileged. It's a very small universe, actually, and what the Department of Justice is privilege team basically says is that with respect to Exhibit A, these were documents that we thought may have been privileged at first, but they're not actually. These are government records and public records, and they're not privileged at all, but in the abundance of caution, we're putting it on a list of potentially privileged, but we think that there's really no claim of privilege whatsoever. And then they have Exhibit B, which they say this is a group of documents that also doesn't seem to be privileged, but these may be records and of communications involving attorneys or that may have potentially confidential records that we just don't really care about, like settlement agreements and communications with the IRS that are just not the focus of our investigation. And so we're happy, the privilege team says, just to return these Exhibit B documents to Donald Trump. We'd be happy to return it to him. But one of the big points here, too, is this is a very small universe of documents. And so when Donald Trump tries to complain and whine that there are all these personal records that the Department of Justice seized, they didn't. I mean, it's a very, very, very small grouping of records here of these potentially privileged records, which were already segregated. I'm going to go through the list of documents that has now been revealed. And these are documents that were obtained in Mar-a-Lago on August 8th. They're listed. The actual documents aren't there, but descriptions, general descriptions of the documents are listed. We got to go through these together because some of these are very, very, very fascinating. But before going through them, I'll just explain to you the process of what the Department of Justice does when they search a premises like this and how they utilize a privilege review team. And so the process for a privilege review team is set forth in the search warrant. So when Judge Reinhart, remember him, the magistrate judge who found probable cause, who issued the search warrant on August 5th, which was executed on August 8th, there's a process set forth in that warrant for dealing with issues of what if the FBI finds attorney-client privilege records when they search a residence or a place like Mar-a-Lago, where here's what happens first, and here's what happened here. A privilege team, which is separate from the case team that's actually investigating the crime, a privilege team goes in first and they do the first search. And they're given key terms and instructions about potential communications involving lawyers. And the privilege team goes around and looks for any documents that could potentially be privileged in terms of the overall documents that are the subject of the search warrant. And if it could be potentially privileged, they make the broadest possible interpretation of what could be privileged. Those immediately get removed and they get separated such that the investigative team, the team that's investigating the criminal conduct, They don't have access and they don't see the documents that were obtained by the privilege team until it is determined through the privilege team through a filter process that the documents are not attorney-client privilege. Then those documents could be returned back to the team that is actually investigating the underlying criminal conduct. And this is a process that takes place frequently when the DOJ executes search warrants like this. The idea of a special master is very, very, very rare in cases involving search warrants. And the cases where special masters have been utilized really deal with cases where an entire law firm or a lawyer has a search warrant executed on them, such that there's all these attorney-client privileged files, so that you need that special master to go in and do that independent review because the DOJ's filter team is not capable of doing it, or for whatever reason there's a doubt that they can do it. But here, with respect to this search warrant executed at Mar-A-Lago, the very fact that Donald Trump wanted a special master dealing with issues of executive privilege, where special masters don't deal with issues of executive privilege because the law is well established. It's beyond any doubt, should be, that the executive branch, the current executive branch, is the one who makes those determinations, not past presidents and former administrations. That's been rejected a long, long, long time ago. That's not what the law is. In any event, you have in this situation the privilege review team did their review. They took these documents into custody. Now let's talk about what these documents are. So Exhibit A, remember the Exhibit A category are documents that are government records, which the Department of Justice thinks there's no way there's a claim of privilege, but in the abundance of caution, we've still taken these documents and we want to share these documents with you, court and flag them before we give them back to the investigative team, but because maybe they're potentially privileged. But all in all, we're talking about 21 sets of records here, so not a lot of records. But let's go through them. Exhibit A, filed under seal and ex parte. Well, we have access to them now. Privilege review team. These are documents that were found at Mar-A-Lago, which are now being revealed for the very first time. Item number 1, Draft 2019 Immigration Initiative. 2, Congressional Clemency Request for RN. I believe RN refers to Ronan Namani, someone who Trump pardoned in 2019, who was convicted of distributing synthetic marijuana in 2015. But that was a document that he took with his, a government record, which he stole. He shouldn't have brought to Mar-A-Lago. Senate clemency request for RN. That's also Ronan Namani. 4, printed email between the head baseball coach at the U.S. Air Force Academy and the White House. And lots of people believe that this refers to a correspondence with the coach, Mike Kozlowski, who was arguing that military service should be delayed for athletes at the Air Force who go to the major leagues. 5, unsigned letter from Kazowitz, Benson, and Torres to Robert Mueller dated 6/23/2017 during the Mueller investigation. Kazowitz Benson is a law firm headquartered in New York City. They're Donald Trump's lawyers at the time, and it's believed that this was a letter or an intended letter that they had sent to Robert Mueller, basically telling him he should recuse himself from the investigation. 6, document titled Executive Action to Curb Illegal Immigration and Move Towards Merit-Based Entry. You know what that is, self-explanatory. 7, printed email between White House and National Security Council regarding John Walker Lynn's release. And this is the individual they called the American Taliban, who was, I believe, caught in Afghanistan in 2003. 8, letter to President regarding Ted Sull's clemency and Ted Sull commutation, internal analysis, someone who was eventually commuted. 9, publicly filed letter regarding Rod Blagojevich clemency, the former governor of Illinois. Rod Blagojevich commutation internal analysis. 11, publicly filed letter to Congress regarding Rod Blagojevich clemency, a lot of Rod Blagojevich stuff. Internal pardon package for IR and JC. This is believed to be the pardon package for Ignacio Ramos and Jose Alonso, who were pardoned. And these were, believe, Border Patrol agents who were convicted of killing a drug smuggler, and they were pardoned. Printed email from Charles Harder to the New York Times. I believe this relates to a lawsuit Trump filed against the New York Times in 2020, which got dismissed, I believe, in March of 2021. 15, document titled Meeting Requests for Your Approval. Post a note for POTUS review. Self-explanatory. Document titled Molly's Questions for POTUS. That's Molly Michael, Trump's assistant at the White House previously. The next document is printed email dated 12/31/2020 from Kurt Hilbert to White House email account regarding signed verifications for Fulton County lawsuit and federal complaint and 3 verifications. This is one of the frivolous lawsuits that Donald Trump filed to try to get a free and fair election overturned, which was rejected. 18, printed email dated 12/31/2020 from Kurt Hilbert to White House email account sharing 10 files regarding federal lawsuit. 19, contents of red folder marked NARA letters and other copies. This right here, unclear what it is for sure, but this could be showing Trump's intent that he was aware that NARA was saying to get their records back, but that Donald Trump was continuing to obstruct and hide the records. 20, contents of manila folder marked NARA letters, 1 top sheet plus 3 signing sheets, same thing. 21, 35 pages, each titled The President's Calls, with the presidential seal in the upper left corner, containing handwritten names, numbers, and notes that primarily appear to be messages, including message from Rudy, 4 blank pages with miscellaneous handwritten notes. And because they saw something that said message from Rudy, that's why they put it here in this Exhibit A, which were documents that potentially were privileged, but are clearly in this case government records, which he should not be able to claim any privilege over. So this is the Exhibit A, documents that the filter team believes, the Department of Justice filter team believes are government records. There could be no claim for attorney-client privilege here. They want to transfer these documents back to the investigative team. And remember, the investigative team, in addition to these records, have the 11,000 other government records, approximately 200,000 plus pages of documents that Donald Trump stole. These are just a very small subset that I read to you, the 21 documents that were in this category of potentially privileged. That's how small this group of documents is compared to the 11,000 other documents that Donald Trump stole. So just think about what I just read for you now, those 21. Think about that there are 11,000 documents that are not privileged, that clearly not privileged, that Donald Trump stole, and think about what those documents say based on what I just read to you and the type of documents he was keeping at Mar-A-Lago. Now I'll read for you Exhibit B. Now, Exhibit B are documents that the filter team said that these documents still likely aren't privileged, but they may involve confidential communications or things that just have nothing to do with the underlying investigation. And so the Department of Justice filter team says, look, we're happy to return these records to Donald Trump if he wants us to return them. But here are the types of documents that are in Exhibit B. Medical letter from Dr. Harold N. Bornstein, dated 9/13/2016. This was the doctor who said that Donald Trump is the most healthy person in the world. Remember that stupid letter? It may not be that exact letter, but it's the same doctor. 2, summons and complaint with attached exhibits in Trump for President versus Northland Television. I believe this is a lawsuit that Trump filed against a Wisconsin television network because it hurt Trump's frail ego. 3, letter from Morgan Lewis, that's a law firm, regarding taxes. 4, Pat Cipollone business card with LIC Sat Night Live written on it, post-it note. And this is, Trump was threatening Saturday Night Live around this time, and Pat Cipollone was a White House lawyer for Trump, and so was he using his White House lawyer to threaten Saturday Night Live. 5, signed letter from Trump campaign legal advisor to Biden campaign, copying Facebook and Twitter CEOs. Not sure what that is other than a campaign letter telling Biden's campaign, which Biden's campaign, I think, was challenging some of the ways that Donald Trump was manipulating Facebook. 6, letter from Morgan Lewis regarding taxes, duplicative item number 3. Last page of letters signed by Philip Ruffin. That's an individual who owns casinos in Las Vegas, which is also subject of the investigation by Tish James, the New York AG, for Trump inflating the valuations of his properties. 8, first page of letter from Balk and Bingham to Kurt Hilbert. Post-it note from Cleta Mitchell. Cleta Mitchell, one of the lawyers who was spreading the big lie and trying to overturn the free and fair election. 9, envelope containing Blue Cross Blue Shield explanation of benefits. 10, yellow folder marked TMG containing execution copy of restrictive covenant agreement signed by Donald J. Trump. Trump Media Group, and a restrictive covenant would be preventing him from taking employment in other places. 11, red folder marked Galicia containing document titled Bronx Mediation Programs Agreement to Mediate It, signed Donald Trump. This is a funny one. 12, invoice for legal fees from Stein, Mitchell, Beto, and Misner. Post-it note said, you agreed to pay this bill. Work prior to his becoming White House counsel. No, I believe this was Pat Cipollone's prior law firm before working at the White House. And here Trump is saying, no, he's not going to pay the invoice. 13, manila folder marked accountants containing signed letter for BKM accounting firm regarding retention. 14, Trump Media Group board resolution for appointment of company secretary and joint written consent of board of directors and Trump Media Corp letter of employment. 15, confidential settlement agreement between PGA and Trump Golf signed by Donald J. Trump. Remember the PGA after the insurrection said that they would not be playing at Trump golf courses. And now Trump, of course, allows the Saudi Arabian propaganda machine to have its live golf tournaments at his properties, where he also buried his first wife, but a whole nother story. Manila envelope marked UBS containing signed power of attorney. Manila envelope, civil complaint in Trump versus Kemp and Raffensperger. Invoice for Haba legal fees. 23, filed summons to Mary L. Trump and complaint in Donald J. Trump versus Mary L. Trump. Keep going down. Manila folder marked Serio contract containing contract with CIC Ventures and Gold Ventures. This was an interesting one. 28, Trump folder containing filed substation of counsel. I think it means substitution, but substation of counsel in E. Jean Carroll versus Trump. FEC designation of counsel. Red folder containing endorsement request for state official and email accepting Trump's resignation from SAG. Fee agreements from lawyers. Signed tax return disclosure consent forms. Stipulation of counsel. Consent order of substitution of counsel. So that's really Exhibit B. You can go keep looking at them. But in Exhibit A, we're talking about 21 documents, more pages than that, but 21 documents. Exhibit B, we're talking about 43 documents. And so this was the entire set of potentially privileged records, which the Department of Justice makes clear in here. By the way, these documents have not been seen by the actual team investigating the criminal conduct, the violation of the Espionage Act, obstruction, concealment, and mutilation of the top secret records and other government records. But that's how small these other groups are. We just went through all of them right then and there. But remember, there are still 11,000 other government records. 11,000 other government records that the Department of Justice was able to obtain in connection with the search warrant executed at Mar-A-Lago. And then there were the 100 top secret classified records that were turned back over to the Department of Justice after Judge Eileen Cannon tried to prevent that from happening and tried to make that part of the special master process. But again, I'll leave you with this. If these are the documents, and these were serious records that I read for you right there, but these are records are such a small subset. Think about all the other stuff that he stole. Think about the types of classified records that he stole. Think about the intent within which he stole it. All those records that I read for you, though, he stole and he took for a reason. And so think about him with his transactional mind, how he can use records against people and how he can manipulate people and how he could extort and blackmail people with records. That's how he's always thought in the past. That's how he's thinking here. But it's an interesting glimpse to get with that document being temporarily unsealed. Very rare for it to be temporarily unsealed by the district court, for us to get a glimpse of just some of the documents obtained during the search warrant executed at Mar-A-Lago. Glad to share that with you. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hey, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button right now. We're almost at 1 million subscribers. Thanks to you. It's free to subscribe. Hit subscribe. If you want to support independent media like this, here's what you can do as well. Help grow this network by going to patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Until next time, I am Ben Meiselas.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.